Hello, everyone. This is Ben Dunn. Sorry I haven't been posting more often. I've been busy with family and moving and all sorts of things, and as well as writing and drawing comics, things like that. So I am moving from the Dallas area to San Antonio. So it's a 5-hour trip usually, depending on traffic, and 10-hour round trip. So you get to listening to YouTube on your radio and thinking about things in general. And recently, I've noticed there's a lot of personal drama going on in the comic industry. And while I'm loath to get involved in any type of drama, I cannot help but noticing how it is affecting the comic book industry in general. Now, comic book industry is a blip on the entertainment radar. Yeah, it's a great source of IPs, strip mining ideas for other, media to exploit. There's certainly the advantage that comics have is that you can, pretty much put your idea out there very quickly and easily, and then you can hopefully get the notice of some streaming service, movie studio, TV studio, or some production company saying, "Hey, that comic is a great idea." The thing about it is that the community of comic book creators and people who are into comics, tend to be sort of mentally arrested in some fashion. I'm not saying that for everyone, myself excluded, but that's just the way it is. I was just blessed that way. But for why in the world would anybody want to get in anybody else's business? Leave them alone. What the heck are you trying to do? I heard a recent broadcast saying that jealousy and envy does play a huge factor in, the temperament of a lot of these people who are into comic books, comic book publishing, comic book creation. For some reason, and I'm not saying this for everyone, don't get me wrong, when we see the success of another creator, the green-eyed monster seems to pop inside our heads. And let's, admit it. Let's face it. Many of you out there really want to see a lot of creators burn and crash and fall. To see themselves fall from grace. Now, I'll admit I'm not immune to that. There's some things I sometimes ask myself, well, why in the heck are they doing so well and I'm not doing as well? And, instead of trying to blame their success, what you should do is look at yourself and see what it is that you're doing that somehow you can't seem to either emulate or find that level of success as well. Now, the thing about me personally is that I want people to succeed. I really do. You may not believe it, but it's true. I do. If I wasn't, then I wouldn't be a publisher. If I wasn't a publisher, I would just focus on myself. I would have just said, you know what, I'm just going to do my own comics. To hell with everybody else. That's. I'm just going to focus strictly on that. Don't care about anybody else's comic. Don't care about the industry except for my own little enclave, my little island that I've put myself on. The thing about it is I want to see the comic industry succeed. And all this drama and infighting, and it's not helpful. It's not productive. Imagine how much we could create, how much we could do if we all just minded our own business and focus on trying to make the comic book industry succeed. You know, the thing about comics is that comics should be as huge an industry as any other entertainment industry. Well, I mean, maybe not video games, maybe not movies, but it should be right up there, you know, in the level of importance. You know, in the way in the level of monetary gain. You know, the reason that pay is so bad for comic creators is because the industry is bad. You know, if the industry were a huge success, then accompanying rates should follow. I mean, I learned that the G.I. Joe omnibus reprint, they made some almost close to $4 million. And apparently, one of the writers, Larry Hama, isn't getting any royalties. I can understand that. You know, if the contract doesn't specify you get royalties, then you don't get royalties. You know, and I'm sure the publisher of the omnibus realizes that if they pay Larry Hama royalties, then they have to pay everyone royalties. They can't make an exception. You know, they either have it's all or nothing. You know, they have to pay all the artists, you know, everybody else and that. And believe me, they're not in the business of doing that. They're in the business to make as much money for themselves as possible. You know, that sucks, but that's the reality. You know, one thing I always say is that there's truth and then there's reality. Truth is whatever you believe in to be true, but reality doesn't care about your truth. Okay, that's just the simple fact of the matter. You know, the thing about it is that by engaging in all this drama, engaging in all this, you know, envy and jealousy, you know, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. You know, the one thing I always notice is that these other broadcasters, they always brag about how many subscribers they have, you know, how much they're making on their channels, you know, how much they're doing better than the other guy, you know, and I don't give a fucking flying, you know, monkey's butt about that at all. You think I care about your subscriber count? You think I care about how much money you make? You know, I mean, the thing about it is that's just, you know, pride cometh before the fall. You know, everything eventually comes to an end. Even Mr. Beast is not immune. You know, he was one of the biggest YouTubers ever in the history of YouTube. And yet, he's coming down. You know, the thing about it is that, you know, you should focus, you know, on how to make things positive, not to how to make things negative. You know, when you make things negative, then negative results come from it. You know, it doesn't help anybody. You know, I as a comic book publisher want to help other creators. That was the whole reason for Antarctic Press to exist. Now, initially, beginning, it was just, you know, a group of my friends. You know, we were all drawing comics. This was a way for us to get comics out there. You know, but eventually we realized that we had to rely on other creators and their output and their vision to keep Antarctic Press going. It's only through the hard work of other creators that Antarctic Press still exists. You know, we have sort of a lucky mix of company-owned IPs, which are basically just all my IPs, you know, and creator-owned IPs that have kept us afloat for nearly 40 years. I mean, how many other comic book companies can say they've lasted 40 years? Just a handful. You know, I mean, just a mere handful. Believe me, the last 39 years that we've been in existence, there's been a lot of drama in comic books, but it's usually been kept pretty low-key. You know, we didn't have social media back then. You know, so disseminating rumors, you know, and attacking other creators wasn't as prevalent and wasn't as convenient as it is now. Now that we have almost instantaneous communication, you know, people have a tendency to say and do things, you know, without really thinking about it. I mean, back then you had to write letters, and you usually had to think about what you were writing or typing before you sent it out. And you had the opportunity that, I shouldn't send that letter. You can go out and intercept it. But once you post things on social media, it's forever. People can go back. They can track it down. Things you've said 10, 15 years ago, they can find. That's why it's so very careful. You have to be, you have to really think about what you're saying or doing. Once you've attacked somebody, you've made them your enemy. And it's very difficult to make a friend back when you made an enemy. And the thing about it is, why do you want to have enemies? Why do you want to get involved with somebody else's business when there's no business for you to get involved in? Let them do what they want to do, and let them learn the lesson of their success or failure based on what they're trying to do. I'm calling, basically on the community itself to just chill out, man. Let's focus on making comics. Let's focus on saving our industry. Let's focus on creating the next new idea that's going to influence an entire generation. Let's make things, so that everyone can benefit both financially and personally, what they're creating. Crowdfunding has certainly changed, the formula, but it's still very, very niche. We need to find ways to influence the larger population at large. I know people will read comics. I know it. It's just they have no access to it. They're not aware of it. We just got to be a way that somehow we can get people to read comics on a more regular. Manga is a good example. What manga is doing is a great example of what we should be doing. And I think that we can easily, what I mean by we, the American comic book industry, can stand up to the challenge of manga. I love manga, don't get me wrong. I was one of the great proponents of manga in the early beginning when people didn't know what manga even was. But I realized that manga is not the be-all to end-all. The thing about manga is still Japanese-centric. They're not doing comics for American audiences. They're doing comics for Japanese audiences. It's just that American audiences seem to like what Japanese audiences like. Simple stories, that entertain. And that's really what it comes down. The thing about manga is that manga goes in trend cycles. I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but, certain art styles, certain storylines, certain subject matters, they change over decades. The manga that was made in the 70s is way different than the mangas that were made right now. The thing about, even back then, manga was considered for kids. Adults really didn't read manga. Back in the 60s and 70s, they didn't. But it wasn't until the introduction of some more adult-oriented manga. They knew, the thing about it is they knew they could get an adult audience if they made stories that were aimed for them. They did stories that they knew their audience, and that's what they aimed for. The thing about comics, American Western comics, is that it still has the stigma of being simply for kids. There has to be comics that can be aimed at a general population. There have been. Don't get me wrong. There have been. But the thing is, they've been far and few between. But that's just my thought. I think that we need to have less drama. We need to have more focus on the simple art of creating new material that people can get into and that people will support. Right now, my understanding is there's about less than 2,000 comic book stores left in the U.S. when there used to be tens of thousands of them. We need to bring that back. We need to bring back the habit of having people go to comic book stores again. That they need to go in, and we need to, in other words, we need to decouple the habit of just reading comics on online. Now, the fact is that since comics are physical, you have to actually make an effort to go get them and discover them. We need to play up that fact that it's something that will benefit them in the long run, and make it worth the effort. Try to create a sense of community. Try to make it worth the effort to go to the comic book store, and try to, figure out and make it worth their while that the comic they're going to be getting can be passed on, and can, have value to it. And it'll be. I think that once we can convince people to do that again, I think we'll see a revival of the comic book industry. But anyway, that's just my thought. So stay away from the drama. Would you just focus on making good comics? So until next time, this is Ben Dunn signing off.